Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. That's a hard piece after so many good presentations to be the last one. When I heard the topic automated society, I was first thinking I can't speak about that because that's an oxymoron, that's a contradiction in terms. How can society of human beings be automated? But talking about it as an oxymoron, waiting for its solution, that makes sense to me. And I'm really thankful to be able to speak to you because you are driving this new development in the direction that we have to think about what's the next step. Let me start with something that might be funny for some of you. We were talking about artificial intelligence. Some of you were talking about it. 4 weeks ago, IBM opened its worldwide center of IBM Watson IoT in Munich. And I was one of 25 journalists in some press conference a week after the opening. And this lady was telling her Pepper assistant to tell us what we would expect to see in the industry labs in this floor where they were introducing it. And she said some certain sentence, please tell those journalists what they will see. And that was the reaction of Pepper. He didn't understand what she was saying. He was looking at her like this, and she went to Pepper and she told the same sentence again into his ear, and he just had no clue what she was saying. And she said, well, maybe it's too many people in this room, maybe it's a little bit too loud, he didn't understand me, so let's go on. And she told us what we would expect to see. So if we are thinking about artificial intelligence bringing us the next ethics for human society, I think that will take a while. I will want to make 3 points. The Industrial Revolution, I want to take you on a little tour through the history of the Industrial Revolution, because I think only if we look at what we have behind us, we are able to understand what's happening at the moment. What's happening at the moment is the Internet of Things and services. And this is really disrupting the society, and what that means, I want to make some points about it and how the discussion is running today. And what can we do to shape this new society in a digital world? So let's start with the Industrial Revolution. It started with making goods in the second half of the 18th century. The first one was starting in Great Britain and France, and a little bit later Germany. It was not the United States. They were busy with their reconstitution, with independence and civil wars. And only the last 30, 40 years of the first Industrial Revolution, they caught up. And it was enough to be leader in the second one. So at the second Industrial Revolution, with the automotive assembly lines, that was coming from the United States. And what we learned and what we have to think about, what happened there, we learned that the society was at that time also at a big change. It was changing everything. The industry needed different conditions, different people. So the people needed right to strike against the complete exploitation. the prohibition of child labor was necessary to let those kids live. We developed a complete social legislation, and the social economy that we know for many decades now, that was founded because the industry and the society needed that. Education for everybody. The industry needed people that were able to handle the machines, the tools in the industry. And I come back to that again. And the democracy. I think we should think about if what happens today to our democracy that we are knowing for so many years and that we are loving, what has it to do with the industry? Because Trump in the United States, Erdogan in Turkey, and Putin in Russia, these are not the industrial leading nations of the world. And maybe that has something to do with each other. Let's go back to the history. What happened after the second industrial revolution was very interesting, because that was the start of the digitalization. The computer was already there in the mid of the 40s, Konrad Zuse, Germany, but it was not able to, it was not enabling the economy to use it in a broad way. That was with the microchips in the 70s. And what happened then is very interesting because it changed the world once again. In Germany, we used the computer for programmable logic controllers, for automation, for robotics, and with embedded software, we had mechatronic products all over. And afterwards, we were saying this was the third industrial revolution. At that time, we didn't talk about it, and nobody knew that this would be the third industrial revolution. What happened on the other side was completely different. The United States concentrated on the computer itself. So they had an IT revolution, IBM with the computers in the 70s. Everybody thought this would be the computer company forever. But 1985, Microsoft changed the thing again and made some business model. Software alone is the base of Microsoft business. They didn't sell the computers. 10 years later, the internet was there. And once again, 10 years later, beginning of this century, we had the smartphones, the mobile tablets and the mobile devices. And the result of this development is that we see Germany as something like the global leader in hardware, in manufacturing industry, and the United States as the global leader in software and internet. From goods to mass-produced goods to individualized mass-produced goods. That was the way we were going. The changes, and that might be a reason that we are surprised today, how big is the change today and why are we looking at this completely different than the last decades. The changes were not seen by everybody. From 1970 to 2005, it was mainly in production, in the business. The computer was used everywhere, but not at home. Only very few people were starting to use it at home. It was invisible how the computer changed the world. It was behind the scenes. And it was nice new products coming up. Good design, good functionality, and better prices. It was more was available for a better price for many people. And new jobs were replacing the old ones. So it was not dangerous, not scaring like today. There were many jobs in IT and software departments also in the industry that were not there before. And today we have very few workless in Germany. 2005, another thing happened with iPhone and iPad from Apple, the mobile computing and the internet usage for everybody. That changed. The first thing that the computing and the use of the internet was available to everybody. So everybody could use it, and it changed something, but it was more nice. It was nice new services that you could use with your smartphone. And in the industry, it didn't look like a big change. It looked like this is evolutionary going forward like we had it the last 30, 40 years. And going back to the history for one more little thing, Industry 4.0, 2012 in Germany was the definition of this next step. And 1 year in 2014, the industrial internet was defined, founded from 5 companies in the United States. They are both aiming at the same thing, the Internet of Things and Services, which means every product can be connected in the future because the IPv6 enables us to have billions of things with their own IP in the Internet. What you see here, I was telling you in the second industrial revolution, United States were leading. They only needed 30, 40 years to catch up. And here we see something that could be something similar. China is catching up for 30, 40 years now, and they made the decision with a 10-year plan made in China 2025 with the goal they want to be the leading industry nation worldwide by 2049, which means with the 100th birthday of the People's Republic of China. They want to be there. And I guess it could be possible because it's not anymore the country which tries to steal know-how and does something. And I'm coming back to that point again, why I think that could be possible. What's happening today? That was also in some presentations a topic. This is the world champion in the Lee Sedol, the world champion in Go, who lost this game against the Google DeepMind last year in March. That was one of the games that he lost, 4-1. He won 1 game and lost 4. Though I was joking a little bit about artificial intelligence, there's no question that it's there. The platforms for artificial intelligence and machine learning, IDC told last year in an article in the New York Times, they estimate that in 2020, it will be a market for artificial intelligence of $40 billion US, and they think that 60% of it will be made by Amazon, Google, IBM, and Microsoft. And this will change the world of IT once again. What we have is adaptive systems that are able to react on the environment, on the climate, on water, on the weather, on the traffic. We're talking about adaptronics instead of mechatronics. We have cyber-physical systems defined as smart products with an integrated IT-based, integrated internet-based service. And we're talking about cybertronics. So almost everything can be connected, and this is what makes the society, the disruption of the society. And if we only look at the technical side of this change, for example, looking into industrial engineering, and here just looking at how products are designed, we see the disruption in this way. It was starting in the 60s, 70s, we still had those drawing boards, and the technical drawings were made by construction engineers, and nobody except of them could understand this drawing. The first step of digitalization was the CAD drawing, replacing the drawing boards. The second was going from 2D to 3D, and suddenly everybody could understand what the designers were doing. And finally, we are at a point where you can have multiphysics simulation with a 3D model of a complex product like a car. But to go there, we need to move from mechanical engineers to multidisciplinary model-based systems engineering. And that's not a technical problem anymore. It's not done by buying some tool and telling your engineers, now you're using a system model. It's not working like this because we have the faculty borders. I don't know exactly how it's working here. As far as I learned today, there might be a difference between Germany and Sweden, but more or less in the Western world, we have those faculties in engineering in the technical universities between electrical engineers, electronics, software engineering, mechanics, and this is leading us to a situation where in the industry you find those engineers thinking their old discipline thinking like they were doing 20 years ago. And what we need now is some multidisciplinary thinking, and that's not done by a technical change with the implementation of a tool. And also the organizational structures of the industry. They were built for the old industry. 20 years ago, it was 95% of innovations were done by the mechanical engineers. And the whole structures of the big industry companies are built like this. So that has to be changed. The management has to be changed. Only the last 1-2 years we are starting to have some management changes like chief digital officers additional to the chief information officers that we had before. But that's not all. We have to have many changes that have to be managed that are not technical changes. It's not the technology asked for doing the changes we need now. How does this disruption of the society look like? Just some aspects. We can't talk about everything. Just looking into the school. From reading, from teaching the kids to read and to write and to calculate, we have to come to a point where we teach them to understand smart systems and to use them in a good way. That's not done today. In the family, home, it was our private space, right? In the future, we're talking about a smart home, and almost everything at home will be connected. So will be us. All of us will be connected even when we're at home. So we have to discuss which part of the smart home should be the private space that we want to keep. That's not a technological problem. At work, when I was starting my first work as an engineer, there was a description of my position. I don't think that these descriptions are existing anymore. Because today you're starting with a role in a process and you know for sure you will not have this role 2 years later. It's changing every day, every year. Transportation, travel. It's not so long ago that everybody was thinking mobility means I have my own car. My son does not have a car. He's living in Berlin, and he's using public traffic, and every now and then he's thinking about buying a car. He could, but he says it doesn't make sense. It's better to take a share car or to use public transportation. Healthcare, elderly care, also this was already a topic today. We have to define where do we want machines and robots to take over some aspects of this work. Do we want just to do what's possible, or do we have to think about where we want it? This debate about digitalization that we see today, I put it the way that I try to find the extreme positions. And maybe the one is like all of us. We know what's happening, and we are thinking about it and shaping it, the technology experts, and there are the others that don't really understand what's happening. Those who understand, they are sometimes exaggerating how good it will be, how fast it will be, how smart it will be. It will solve everything. Every problem of the world for everybody is solvable. And the others say, this is horrible. The robotic future is the end of the human beings. We don't like it at all. The technology experts are thinking about optimization of the algorithms and how could we optimize our work. The others say, we don't even use your apps. There are still many people out there who are not using smartphones. They reject it. They don't want it. Cybersecurity, we are thinking about how could we make the software secure. The others say they don't even like internet and cloud technology because that's only this technology is insecure and stealing them data. On the one hand, we have people that think about new business models in the direction of services based on the product. On the other hand, we have many people, even in the industry, that say, why should we change? Everything's running good. In Germany, we have so many industry companies that are so successful, that are world market leaders and export leaders in their specific products. They don't want to change. They don't see the necessity to change. On the one hand, we are talking about startups and how we could push that. And on the other hand, people are scared to lose their jobs. And there's one last point that I want to make. What's the disruption of the society today? Because I told you, I think that China is coming up in the background and will be a competitor in the defining of the future. Therefore, it could be necessary and useful for us to think about the differences between the cultures of the East and the West. With us, individuals first. On the other hand, the communities first. That's not it's not a condition from the Communist Party. It's for 2,000, 3,000 years. The rice field watering needs a system where it's not possible that one of the farmers says, I need more water than you. It has to be a common watering system, and there are many things in this culture that were driving this culture in the direction of community first. We were learning deep analysis. We are used to have specialists that are going deep into one thing to find out how's the atom designed and how is it looking like, how are the parts of the atom. And on the other side, they were learning the relation between one atom and the other, and the relation between one thing and the other, between things and people, are more interesting and more important than the one thing going deep. On the one hand, we were leaders in the Industrial Revolution. China was not part of the thing 200 years ago. They were going down. But if you look at the future, in systems development, that could be now something. We have to think about a car as a system within systems. And that could be something where the Eastern culture is giving those players an advantage. Specialists on our side and multidisciplinary on the other side. When I'm speaking in China about Industry 4.0, it happens that there is one mayor talking about smart cities first, then there's coming a professor and talks about quantum computing. Then there's one economist talking about the move in China to the stock market, and then might talk about Industry 4.0, and then others. And there are sitting 800 people, and I asked my inviter, what do you think, how many of those 800 people understood this presentation about quantum computing? And he said, well, maybe 100 took something with them. That's a complete different approach to talking about important things of the future. They are using not those special events like we have in Western Europe. If we talk about innovation management in Germany, there's only the innovation manager that we're talking to. There's no engineer, there's no software specialist. It's always only one discipline. That could be something where we learn something from them. Private and sharing. Sharing, you know, I'm pointing at the share economy. When we go into the restaurant, it's clear we order some plate for myself. In China, it's normal. You go to a restaurant, you sit around a round table, and there are plates on the table, and everybody is putting something out of the plates on his empty plate. So one is sharing. That's in the blood of the Asian people, to share something. So when last October some companies had the idea to bring the bike back to the cities. In Guangzhou, within weeks, there were 20,000 bike shares, those, I don't know how you call it here, if you have it here, 20,000 bikes. So people are running around the city and teaching their children to go by bike with share bikes. So this is for sure difficult and very new situation that we're experiencing today. And the question is, can we do that the way we were solving problems until now? I don't think so. Last October, Ethics Commission on Autonomous Driving was founded by the Ministry of Traffic in Germany. Maybe Mr. Breuer was talking about it yesterday. It was founded in October, so here he is in the second row. 14 experts from ethics, law, and techniques from travel, informatics, engineering, philosophy, theology, consumer protection, and economics. The automotive industry says that's much too early. We're not that far. We're not there. We don't know how autonomous driving really changes the world. You have to wait. But it's not true. We know what will be coming, and we have to think about what we want. And there's the head of this commission, he's saying this sentence: an increasingly automated world must be designed in such a way that man remains the center of the legal order and living conditions. Isn't that a wonderful sentence? I think we should have ethics commissions for many topics in the development of the society in the future. Some small examples of where should we think about the future. The schools. One of the things that were built with the Industrial Revolution, the classrooms, they were thinking about the industry soldiers that they wanted to be educated. It's not what we need in the future. We need space for networking, for working together, and we don't need classrooms for the 14-year-old kids learning one-on-one. And we also need to think about how could we use digital things like webinars for teaching as well as the normal lessons. The contents. We should teach the children about social networks, like we heard in the last presentation. We should teach them to be aware of the criminal activities that they could be seeing there. We should teach them what cloud technology could offer them for chances. We should not be surprised when the people are coming out of today's schools and universities and being manager and saying, well, I don't want to use cloud technology for my company. Mobile computing, they're talking about the use of a smartphone in the lesson. In the school lesson. They're not talking about how to use it in general, the use of the apps that are available. They're not taught that an app is the core of the Internet of Things. And if we look at the end of the school, I think the kids should be aware of the importance of software development and of the use of standard software and not learn it when they go into the industry. Technical universities, we have to tear down even more than it's done today between the faculties, the barriers between the faculties. We need multidisciplinary teamwork to go to model-based systems engineering, which should be something that is a center of every technical university, not only from the software faculties. The cooperation with other sciences. How can we define a new society if we are only looking on our own disciplines? And also training for entrepreneurship. Last year I was told that in China there are 2,000 universities involved in a program where they teach the students in 12 hours a seminar how to prepare for building a startup, how to make a business plan, how to convince investors in 2,000 universities. And the best ones are able at the end to convince some of those investors. And also in work. I think I should be going through this a little bit faster because we want to have a little bit time. So last slide that I want to show you. Digitalization is no longer simply a question of technology and of programming. The definition of society means human beings acting and communicating with other human beings, not with machines. So now we are also doing this with digital tools. And we have to define how we want to do that. So it's about the society in a digital world, and it's us to shape it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ulrich. So, that really is a very good conclusion from where we started, because we started in philosophy yesterday morning, and we've had so many great speakers, and I think you just sort of wrapped it up for us, but I'm sure there are questions or comments. Where art thou? There you are. Now I see one. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gül from University of Gothenburg and Chalmers. I would like to ask one thing about education and use of the technological devices in education in schools. Once one of the famous computer scientists of today, Manuel Blum, said that without writing, you are a finite automata. With writing, you are a Turing machine. I mean, okay, it doesn't make sense to most of the people, but it means that, I mean, you have much more capabilities regarding memory and the computation and other kind of stuff. And in other ways, writing, for example, the classical writing helps to enhance helps as an external memory. So when we have the technological devices, we are not, nowadays kids are not writing anymore and they are using this. So how do you think that this is going to affect their cognitive development? And yeah, that's the thing that I would like to ask.
Do you have something to drink?
Yes, there you go. Water.
Here, thanks. The question was, they don't have the equipment.
No, not anymore. I mean, we are now. I mean, today's kids are using laptops, smartphones, tablets. Not the blackboard or chalk and blackboard that we used to do in the old times. And there is a possibility that this might affect their, cognitive abilities up to some point, because writing in somehow helped the mankind to serve as an external memory.
So you're talking about the physical action of actually using a pen and how that actually affects learning. Well, that's a very deep theory that has been going on, if that is important or if we're actually moving into new ways of learning in using digital. Would you want to comment on that?
I think it is very important to use all the stuff that's available today. I don't know if it's here really in a way done that they are using everything they could. In Germany, we are really talking about having the people using their iPad in their classroom. It's most of the schools are not allowing that, so it's maybe a difference between Sweden and Germany.
Yes, we have a question up here.
Andreas Englund from IVL, Swedish Environmental Institute.
Excuse me, sorry. Could you put under your chin, because then it gets a bit sharper.
Good. You described the divisions in the United States going for software and Germany going for hardware. But as we can see, the most valuable companies now are in the software, and there are no German companies on the top. What do you think in the future? Will the value be created in the software or in the hardware? And also another question, Japan is another third economy, I mean, it's Germany, United States, and Japan are the big economies. What's the development in Japan?
Japan is also very, very advanced in the industry. But China also, you have to look what's happening in China. I think the future will be a connection. And when I talked about the Internet of Things and Services, I think the United States were concentrating on the Internet and the data business for the past decades too much. Because now they are realizing the Internet of Things means also the connecting of things. And that's not what they are leading anymore. So they are combining Industrial Internet Consortium with the Platform Industry 4.0 in Germany because they want to cooperate there with Germany. And in China you will find both. You have millions of people being interested in this internet business and data business. WeChat is much more advanced than WhatsApp, where it came from. That's an ecosystem that the people are using. And they also have millions of people interested in being as advanced engineers as the Germans or the Japan one. So I think the future will be a mixture of both. We need the good hardware connected to the internet as a base for intelligent services. I don't think that you will see the United States or Germany leading in the future.
Thank you so much, Ulrich. Thank you.
Thank you.